it was just one of those moments where it's just like, how do I keep going? Like, how do you run a business with no income? Um, and especially, I was a scratch agent, so I didn't have book for like renewals or anything. It was literally what I sold that month was what the business was bringing in. And writing, you know, those paychecks and all the expenses and literally just seeing my accounts go into the negative. Um, I literally sat there and cried. So you get paid commission on the total annual cost of the premium. And so I had just sold literally the biggest account I had written to date at the month prior. And then the next month, I had a good month. I had several accounts. I was expecting about over 12 grand to come in on commission that next month. And towards the last day of the month, that huge policy canceled and went back to their old company. And so I had to back pay commission for um, that client, and it left me with hardly anything coming into the business. And so I literally wrote like my payroll check out of a personal checking account. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, it's Christmas. How am I going to provide for my family? How are we going to have a good Christmas? Right? What are we going to do? I literally sat in my office and I literally cried. And my wife, as we were sitting, it was on our couch there setting up for Christmas, she literally just looked at me and she said, "You're going to be okay." That was it. And it was a few days later, she said, "I believe in you. You're going to provide for our family." And it was just those simple words of, "I believe in you and you're going to provide," was that flip where it's just like, okay, like, stop crying, stop, thinking my business is going to fail. And we had a great Christmas. And it was after that that I literally started studying. I reached out and I found a mentor. I went and I purchased like 10 books, even though I was already into it. I was like, all right, I'm going to purchase things on sales. I'm going to purchase things on this. And it was literally just that motivation of my wife is just like, no, like, you're better than this. Like, go out there, provide for our family. You got this. And she has always supported me in that way.
Where I walk out of my office and I'm like, I'm done. I quit. I don't want to ever do this again. Life is hard. I'm crying in the shower. I'm whatever. Like, we've all had anybody who says they've never broke as a business owner, never broken down that bad. I don't know that I believe them. And if they haven't, that's incredible. Um, that's amazing. I don't know, but I know I've done it. And I know that my wife has been integral, essential in buoying me up. And in fact,
And it came to a point where I had this realization, and it was my wife set up our own insurance policy when we got married. What am I doing in insurance? Because I was just so bogged down with all these objections and trials and everything with this industry. But that came to a pivotal part where I had to make a choice. I could become a victim of my circumstances and leave the industry, or I could become a victor of my opportunities. And so, with the help of my wife, I was able to make that choice to become a victor. This is kind of a funny story, but I used to hate like education, right? I hated school at one point. This is probably when I was like 12 years old and didn't want to do homework. I was like, I'm already good at school. I don't want to do homework. What's the point? Right? Those typical items. And Sam, it actually got to a point where I kind of threw religion into my arguments with my parents, where I literally like studied out the second coming of the Lord to prove that the Lord would come before I'd graduate high school, so I didn't have to do homework. I gave the whole presentation to my parents about like why I shouldn't do that or why I shouldn't have to do homework. But then my dad's simple lesson was I want you to turn that passion you had on that topic into everything you do, because learning's about discovery. And so when we view things as a failure, our negativity bias kicks in. Now, because of that, we're pessimistic by nature. We all see things in a negative light. And psychologically, when a negative experience happens, our amygdala, which regulates our emotion, it fires more rapidly. So we actually remember it easier. Studies show it's usually about 4 positives to have the same impact as 1 negative throughout our day. And you've probably had this experience where you get done with work and your spouse asks you how your day went, and just the negative things pop right to your mind. And because of that, our human psychology is to keep us safe, right? So we remember those and they come to our forefront because that was scary, that was hard, that was difficult. Let's not do it again. And in that cycle, it invokes fear. So from failure goes to fear, because the next time we have to make a phone call that we were rejected on, our amygdala fires and it brings up that remembrance of you were rejected before, don't make that phone call again, right? Oh, your wife didn't like that, don't do it again, right? It keeps us safe. And so that fosters a sense of complacency where we just say, we're good. I won't do it. I won't do anything. And that's where I see a lot of people go in this scenario where they just say, I'm fine in my business. I'm fine with my marriage. I'm fine with my kids. I've progressed as far as I want to in my field, right? Whether that's sports, whether that's sales, whether that's anything you're in, they just say, I'm good where I'm at. However, a top performer, they flip the script where they say, hey, there's value in that education, because the top performer starts with optimism, which is the Latin word for the best. So every time something doesn't work, instead of viewing it as a failure, the optimist has a choice to make. That top performer says, I can become a victim, right? And kind of let that, my negativity take over, or I can become a victor and take that and learn from it. And if we learn, that increases our power. Now, power is just dormant without application. What turns the key is when you have wisdom and you take that and apply it back into your life, apply it back into your systems. So you learn your wife doesn't like something, learn from it, apply it, and don't do it again, right? You now gained wisdom, and that drives success.
This phrase that hindsight's 2020. The problem is that most people don't ever inspect their hindsight. Most people get through the rejection, get through the pain, get through the uncomfortable circumstance and say, whew, glad I made it through that. I don't want to ever think about that again. And they never inspect the past, which means the hindsight never actually becomes 2020 because they never focus in and find out what didn't work and what did work. And it's this really fascinating thing where it's like, okay, well, how do we encourage or help people feel safe? Because again, your brain, you mentioned, I talk about this all the time, but your brain wants to protect you. It's its job to protect you. So how do you help your brain feel safe enough to re-experience the past that was just really painful and then move forward and make those adjustments? And that's where I think mentorship on yourself, managing mindset is one of the most important things. That I haven't seen it get any easier at any level in my business. I haven't seen it get any easier when I see people who are like income wise making hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions. Like everybody is dealing with how do they manage mindset. Everyone, and it's a constant struggle. The imposter syndrome of the world is a constant thing. And so that's another area where people think, oh, well, I got to a point, and I've done this multiple times. I know that the way for me to control my life is to have my focus clear, to be writing it down, to be reading my goals. Like I know that that's the solution. Sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, hey, I have enough good things going on. I don't need to manage my mindset that much. Like it's just kind of on autopilot. I'm just in the groove. I'm in the zone. But energy that's not intentionally set in motion returns to chaos. Like that's just the laws of energy. Is if it's not organized or intentionally organized, it will return to chaos. And being on the front of, front learning, very devout. We're going to be on time. We're going to be where we need to be. Well, so we showed up. We were sitting in the front of the chapel, and our dad was not there. He was late, and we're not. It wasn't uncommon that he was late, but after we had our family meeting after church every Sunday, and he said, "Hey, while you guys were, it was winter time, while you guys were all sitting in there, I was out salting the walkways. I was helping the elderly get safely into the chapel, and I was really disappointed that I have 7 sons, and they were all sitting in the chapel waiting to be religiously fed or whatever, but not practicing anything, you know? Like, I don't ever want to see my kids not serving." So that was really impactful because it was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, I didn't realize that there's a separation between what somebody professes to be learning and the actual action of applying it. And so that was an impactful thing where like words are great, but action is really more important. And it's anybody who has an absolute focus. You could have the worst plan, a plan that's not going to work most likely, but if somebody's absolutely committed and consistent and persistent and dedicated to making it happen, he has no influence on you. Whereas somebody who has the best plan in the world, the best system, Tyler, I'm sure you've mentored people, they've paid you for your mentorship, and then they halfway do your strategies. They halfway do it. And they're like, this stuff doesn't work. You wasted my time and my money. And you're like, dude, you didn't even halfway try. Like you didn't even put any effort into becoming better. And now you're saying it's my stuff that didn't work. You didn't put any effort in. And that's not to always make it somebody else's fault. Like we can take accountability for our failures, but we also have to be putting some effort in.
There is no fear when the focus is clear. And that focus in our lives, having those values, having that legacy, having that purpose that we want to fuel with our family, with our clients, with our relationships, that's what drives top performance on a regular basis. And so education for a business owner is huge. We can always learn how to improve ourselves and apply it back into our system and get out of that chair of complacency and optimistically perform every day. With every type of endeavor or different experience, it's always, you got it, go kill it. And it's that support, and that's kind of what you said. That's the beauty of like a mentor or coach, where oftentimes it's just that motivation where it's, hey, your actions is going to provide the best life for you. So go out there and just take action.
Yeah, I think it's so easy in life to get down